Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our Nightmare difficulty playthrough. Today, you'll notice that we've made several changes to our team and our roster. That's just due to my ongoing quest of grinding every single character up to level 300 on this save. But that's not going to stop us from moving forward and having a closer look at what the rest of the Dark Dimension has to offer. So be sure to check as we get going to see if you are subscribed to the channel. If you're not, please take a moment to fix that, as I bring content to you every single day. And I will probably be live streaming this Friday if you want to come check me out on my Twitch channel. The link to that's in the description below. I'm thinking of doing a stream to just kind of go through my process of getting every character up to level 300. So if that's something that you're interested in, please feel free to check that out. So let's just take a moment and take out some of these opponents. It's not necessary that you do, but I think that it might be somewhat beneficial for us. And one thing you'll want to make sure that you do in this section is you'll want to fall down in this crevice. That's in any playthrough save file, because that'll teleport you back up here and give you access to this rare box that was located up here. So if you weren't aware that that was something that was present, well, now you are, and now you can correct it and get that item on your subsequent playthroughs if you're missing that one. So let's keep layering into these mindless ones here, make sure we bring them down, and then now that the ones up top are done, we can take out the guys down here. And the next couple of attacks there do pretty well. And now with all of our team across this gap, we can come down into this combat area here. And knocking these rifts out does pretty well. We've now got to take out these fire demons. And with the 3 of those taken down, we can move on to the next section as well. Kind of interesting to see that we didn't have any additional effects on the fire demons. I would have thought that they may have thrown on that fire aspect, but it does not appear to have been the case. So let's zip through here into the Doctor Strange fight and get that out of the way. And of course he's got a healing aura active. Would make sense that he has something like that. There we are. Get a bit of the Cosmic Burst attack onto him. Though I am happy to see that Doctor Strange doesn't have the Thorns aura active, as that is one of my least favorite effects to have to deal with. We'll knock into him again here, and hopefully our extreme attacks detonating will be enough for us to take him out. And with the 3 of my teammates also activating their extreme attacks, we got a decent amount of damage into him. I would have liked to have done more. And you want to be careful not to get caught up in the Flames of the Faltine there, or I guess it's like a Flames of the Faltine paired with the Bolts of Balthak. Something I've noticed that if you do get stuck in them a little bit, you can kind of dodge or roll out of them. You'll want to input the way that the flames have come from. So kind of if they're swiveling, they always swivel in the same direction. So as the flames move around in this motion, you'll want to directionally input into the direction that they just came from, and that will kind of help make sure that you get through and out of that attack should you get stuck in the middle of it. As you can kind of get trapped into it and get a whole lot of damage dealt onto you that way. Now, if you double back this way behind this area, there's going to be a rift that you can take out. And the reason that you would want to take out this rift is so you can gain access to a rare box up ahead here. And it looks like Daredevil and Crystal are stuck up on the level above us. It's not that big a deal, as we didn't need them desperately. And this is the area that we now have access to, that the rift was blocking off. I didn't showcase that beforehand, But now that we're here, let's just knock into the box and get it cleared up. The next box is going to be up here, and this one is actually going to be something similar, I believe, to the last one, with the main difference being it's this pit down here that you need to get fallen into. And Doctor Strange comes in and says, hey, you know, maybe be careful around those big openings, but he will save you every time you fall in if that is what you do. So just kind of be cautious and aware of that. Got Devil up into another level, so that's good to see. And these ice crystals are really the only ones that will kind of knock you down, so kind of keep that in mind as well as you get caught in these sections. And now that we've got our gravity surge up, we'll want to layer in about as many attacks as we can to these opponents. And then we'll want to set up another gravity surge here. And interesting that only one of these elemental mindless ones has the curse active on them, that being the electric field. And this one here does not. Looks like we've got a couple more mindless ones crawling in to fight off the sides here. I'd never noticed that animation of them actually crawling in from the side of the pit, so that was really kind of fun to see as well. Then here we go up through this portal, and then we'll want to grab this crystal and absorb the energy attacks from this orb. Blasting that out of the way will admit us to the next section, which should be the maze section. Now, normally I blitz through this area because it's entirely optional, but for today's sake, I will not be doing that, as I want to give you an idea of what it takes to get the full clear rewards out of this section. So, these mindless ones, they have elemental charge, just kind of a neutral elemental charge, and you'll want to be careful because they can do stuff like that. I didn't mean to detonate that extreme attack, which is just kind of unfortunate. I was meaning to get a dash attack in on this guy because I wanted his crystal. But now that he's down, we can grab that from him. And now we don't have to worry about any incoming attacks per se, but we can come back and soup up our own attacks and abilities here. That ought to get us fully charged. Now we just need to bring this crystal up here and toss it into the fire element there. And that is going to clear up this rift that was up here at the top, which will allow us to port through and come up here to the electric arcane artifact. And that will free up this rift, which gives us access to 3 rare boxes all bunched up in the exact same spot. And that tends to have pretty good loot to it if you are in need of grabbing something in the regular gameplay, or if you glanced over it. So do kind of keep that in mind. And those are actually all of the rifts in this option. You don't have to take them out. But if you're looking for some pretty decent loot, it's not a bad idea. This time around it was just some health and energy point replenishment. But we do have a couple more rifts that we'll need to take out here. The first one is closed by attacking this arcane artifact down on the bottom side of this map. That frees up the portal over here, which will port us up to the top where we have the electrical arcane artifact, and that will create the ice arcane artifact that spawns in over here. And generally there's not that many large bodies off the top there, so you typically don't have to worry about getting pushed off like that. Now generally that's all I do when I'm trying to clear these guys out. I don't really mess with anything else from these guys because I do speedrun. As a matter of fact, I put up a speedrun on Saturday of the New game, any percent. Friendly in the no buffs categories. That hadn't been run previously. I'm still waiting on that to be verified. But if you're interested in seeing that run, I mean, go give it a look. It's fairly long, but it offers some pretty good insight as to what needs to be done or what can be done to avoid trouble from a lot of the different enemy types, especially from a low-level area. So let's see. Daredevil's going to give us... No. Is it Crystal? Yeah, Crystal has this upward strike. Oh, but she also has the ice attribute that we're looking for. So that will get us into this last rare box. Looks like that was just a health orb. And there's nothing else important around here, so you can just move up to this section. And there is one other rare box that's hanging out down here, just on the other side of this portal. So you'll want to make sure that you grab that before moving along as well. There's a bunch of stuff hidden all throughout the Dark Dimension, so make sure that you kind of check all the different corners before moving on. But nothing else in here, so we'll go ahead and activate the Loki fight. And we'll want to hold on to our extreme attacks until we have our opponents taken down to the second phase. And it's actually very fitting that Loki has the movement slowing item, and incredibly annoying that the rest of his clones have the explosion curses active. So hopefully we can take him out before we have to deal with the rest of them, because the explosion is not something that's fun to have to mess with to any degree. But that's going to do it, so we now just need to get into the Dormammu fight, which is done by triggering this large section and fighting with this this artifact down here. Now, something that is useful in this area is you will want to use these crystals down low first, because, well, as you deal more and more damage to the artifact, you are going, or to the barrier, there's going to be more and more opponents that show up. I recommend saving the crystal that resides in this power for later on in your run, but you can grab the one up top first. And this is kind of the strategy that I've found that tends to work pretty well, is all of these opponents down on the lower ground cannot interact with you physically, but they still can send over their energy beams as they kind of target in onto you. So you'll see here that we get nipped by that, and we can then access the portal and throw the crystal in on that. And now that we have some more opponents down on that lower ground, we can repeat the same strategy, because trying to compete with all of these guys down here is just kind of a mess. And just like that, we have the rift taken out, and we can progress into the next section. Otherwise, this area is just a death trap, and it does not go well. You'll end up losing a lot of health. If you're running through this for the first time, you're probably going to lose a whole bunch of lives as well. And then let's just make our way down to the base here. But up the top of this ramp, there is a synergy wall that we'll want to bust down. Let's see if we can get both of these guys to hit the wall at the same time. There we go. And that gets us access to yet another rare box here. Nothing noteworthy there, but it does yield some rewards in other versions of the playthrough. So now we're on the playing ground of the Dormammu fight. And we'll want to avoid these large meteors, as you cannot absorb those attacks, as they are physical, they are not energy damage dealing. But any of these attacks from these opponents that come in here, this indeed is an energy dealing damage. You'll just want to be cautious of any of the attacks that come through from Dormammu. And then we'll go ahead and layer into Dormammu with our synergies and our extreme attacks. I actually think I'm going to go ahead and detonate one more while I wait. And that gets us into the second phase of the fight, and we'll have Daredevil's extreme attack online for the next stage. This should get us one more crystal, which is good. You want to wait for the barrier to become fully conjured, as you cannot deal damage to Dormammu or his barrier in the second phase until that barrier has been conjured. So don't get greedy and try to take it on. Yeah, and you can absorb the attacks from the Fire Blast coming off here on the right. You can also absorb energy from the electric bolt strikes that come down as well, such as these ones, but you cannot absorb them from the ice artifacts. And there we are. We'll go ahead and detonate a couple of these extreme attacks. And now that Dormammu's into his third phase, we'll want to grab a couple more of these crystals. Now that the barrier's up, we can throw the charged versions of them in to the attack. And these vanilla mindless ones do pretty well when it comes to charging up the crystals that we'll be using and seeking to use, because their energy beam attacks last a significantly increased amount of time when compared with the remainder of our opponents. And that large burst attack that Dormammu has also deals a lot of damage and will fill up that gauge, so you can hold on to your attacks to that point as well. So let's at least get the next section queued up. And this is actually where we're going to call it for the episode. We're going to call it here in the palace, or the throne room of Atalan. And this is where we will pick up on our adventure for Friday's video. So make sure to tune in for the continuation of this series. But thanks again for watching. Again, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button if you enjoyed today's episode or found it helpful, informational, any of that stuff. And feel free to leave a comment letting me know what you're thinking of this type of series so far and what characters you enjoy using in these type of game modes. But thanks again for your time, and have a great rest of your day.